Welcome back. As you know, we have a bunch of new tools in the workshop, as well as some enormous machinery that we needed in order to run our freshly restored 1915 steam hammer. And we've been investing quite a lot of time and effort here in the workshop in upgrading things, like installing a dust extractor on the other side of this wall. The reason for these upgrades is within this. That's 2 enormous sheets of titanium for a rather large project I have in mind that is going to stretch our capabilities. And today, the workshop improvement continues, and the first job is to continue improving the dust extraction. You see, when you're using a surface grinder, you take one of these. It's got an industrial diamond tip, and you use it to dress the surface of your grinding wheel to expose fresh abrasive and make sure that the grinding wheel is nice and flat and true. Well, you see, it's been a while since I've used a surface grinder, and I forgot how extreme the plume of abrasive dust that it makes is. It's disgusting. Now, this machine did have a dust extractor, and technically still does, but I don't trust the filters that I pulled off of this. And what I really want is to connect our existing dust extraction system to this, and also get some dust extraction at the belt grinder. All right, let's give this thing a go. Pull that down, open that up. Woo! Oh, it's capturing a lot more. We're still missing a little bit. Big improvement. Whee! I ran out of elbows to do anything more substantial, but it's a lot better than it was. It looks borderline professional. Goodness gracious me. I don't know how this plastic tube is going to survive when we get to actually grinding. If it melts and gets holes in it, I'll let you know. I do not know how I've survived 4 years with so few clamps. Next on the agenda, we've spent a lot of time talking about sucking, but now we need to talk about blowing. This is our ginormous compressor, 40 kilowatt, 220 CFM. The electricians are coming to put a dedicated power supply in just for that, because the existing power in the workshop simply won't cut it. So they're coming in a few days. But you see, we're missing something. We've got to find a way to get air from this to that, and then all the way to our beloved 1915 Massey steam hammer. It's a pretty long old way, and considering the size of pipe that we need to feed it, it would be quite the misery to install it with this steel piping. And so it's bloody good that the guys at Prevost decided to help us out in order to get this historic machine up and running by providing their beautiful compressed air piping. Yeah, baby. So this is what we're working with. This is aluminium compressed air pipe. I've got to sort through all of this and start figuring out where it goes. Now, Prevost has very graciously not only provided the materials for getting the steam hammer up and running, but also for a complete replumb of the workshop. The current compressed air ring main is plastic. It starts over here with the compressor upstairs, comes down and across, back around into the machining area, underneath the stairs, across here, and then just awkwardly ends there. It also drops into the grinding room, and the pipe is this nylon material with push-fit connections, and it looked great the first day I installed it. But the second day, it all began looking a little bit more like spaghetti. It's just a wibbly-wobbly mess. This is sketchy, and I love it. Oh, baby, yes! Oh, yeah. Oh, goodness gracious, it works. That is just so cool. Like 15 minutes of work and I've got a C-spanner. Righto, despite my debilitating fear of ladders, I've got the first little section of this pipe up here on the ceiling. We're about to put our first elbow on. This Prevost stuff is basically ultra super industrial push-to-connect fittings. There's a stainless steel ring that bites into the aluminium to hold it. Then there's a double O-ring that helps do the sealing. This tightens up, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'll hand tighten everything, then give it an extra quarter turn with our new C-spanner. So now I need to get the receiver tank oriented so that this inlet lines up with the compressor and the outlet on the other side does too. What I also need to do is get this thing off its pallet, because I was an idiot and I didn't get it off its pallet when we had the forklift in here when we were putting it in place. Silly. Look at the size of that motor. Crazy. Got it plumbed off on this side. Now laying out the plumbing for the other side. Next, we've got to go up. This setup here is going to allow me, when the big compressor's on, to use it to fill the ring main in the rest of the workshop. It is also going to give me another 200 liters of storage, because when that is open, big compressor fills big receiver, provides air up to here. Also fills small receiver, which means that we're going to have a little extra top-up of reserve space. Although, of course, it's going to be at a smaller diameter with the 25mm or the inch, so a lower CFM. But a little extra something for when the steam hammer's really guzzling on air, it's not gonna hurt. I had been cutting this on the saw, but check it out, some proper tools arrived. Apparently that's what a C-spanner is meant to look like. Small one too. Sheesh, look at that. For deburring inside and outside. Oh, a monster pipe cutter. Great. And now I've got to plan out where our first drops are gonna go. And we've also got to put a T into the grinding room. Right, I got to drop in here, I put a valve up there, drop on the other side. I had initially hoped to keep the compressor hooked up to a hose so that I could use some air for blowing out pipes and stuff while we go, but I accidentally unplugged it and plumbed in this other side, so putting that valve there means that right now we can pressurize what we've got so far in order to use our hose reel and blower. So let's make sure everything's tight. Okay, and let's see if she holds air. Woohoo! Yes! In. Woo-wee! Now we need to fill in the rest. Look at her go. I'm just in love with this tool. Inside, outside deburrer. It's just the coolest thing. That's a good noise. Slide this in. All the way. Thread tape on these tapered threads. This goes there. Parallel threads with an O-ring. They don't need thread tape, I don't think. And everything needs a little bit of lube. Now we can power on this half. Oh yes. I'm chuffed to bits. Look how neat and professional it looks. So I've been installing some very serious piping in the workshop, and it's starting to make me feel just that little bit more serious. And I want you to feel that much more serious by taking your business to the next level. And you can do that by having a beautiful website that you can build with Squarespace. Squarespace is awesome for e-commerce. You can sell unlimited physical or digital products and even use their AI tools to build out web pages and product descriptions. When we started restoring the Massey steam hammer, I documented the state that it was in a blog post. And now it's time to update it. We've taken it to the Whitwell and Reefham Railway, we've tested it in our own workshop, and hopefully we're gonna get it up and running here in no time. And so of course, we updated that, and it was a piece of cake. So whether you wanna publish a blog, an online store, sell pay-to-access content, showcase your portfolio, you can do all of that and more by going to squarespace.com/forge, where you're gonna get a 2-week free trial, and then code FORGE at checkout will get you 10% off your first purchase. That includes your domain purchase too. Don't wait, get yourself a Squarespace site. Let's get back to it. Last one. I'd planned to do this in steel, like black iron pipe, threaded fittings. This stuff, I'd already bought the material. It would have been awful. It would have been days of twisting a Stilson on the top of a ladder. This is so easy. Boom. No way in hell I could have done this by myself in steel. Now, moving further down, we got to drill a hole in the pipe so that we can put this little tap down to steal some air from the big stuff for a regular sized drop over here. Same type of thing as that. Once there's a hole in the pipe and you squeeze this clamp, that O-ring will get pushed against the 40mm stuff, the chunky stuff. And it should make a nice seal. And these are the drill bits we get to use. What's pretty terrifying, even more terrifying than just the simple fact that I'm about to drill into a compressed air pipe, and it's a completely legit process, is that there are ways of doing this in pressurized pipe. What? This feels ridiculous, what I'm about to do. Did I leave the drill down? I left the drill down there. Everything's in the way of everything. I dropped the Allen key. Here we go. This now gets used as a guide. Oh, my wrist! There's a hole. Slide that on. Check the hose for leaks. Ah, great, it's leaking. The hammer ran off my tiny compressor. Anyway, I got a leak. I need to do something about that. Isolate. It's leaking around the hose. How could it be leaking around the hose? This is meant to be really good. Whoa! While the epoxy on the hammer dries, I'm up here to replace this. Would you believe it? I'm pretty sure that used to be a pressure gauge. And we're also gonna put a new pressure relief valve on, because that one looks like it's had a life. There's my pressure relief valve. There's our pressure gauge. Let's get it put together. Nice. One of my favorite things about all the stuff we've been up to over the last few days is it's basically turned my workshop into a little mini climbing gym. Very dangerous, light industrial climbing gym. Now we are hopefully a few minutes away from the electricians wiring up this compressor, which means hopefully in a few hours, or at least by the end of the day, she's gonna be up and running and we're gonna see if this stuff leaks. I have to say, I've had not one single leak on the blue Prevost pipe, but even in the very few bits of black iron pipe fittings going from the hammer to it, there were several leaks that I had to chase. I did this pipe work before I figured out how the Prevost stuff really worked and went together, so I was a little bit nervous. So I did what I was used to, but I do have a few spare Prevost elbows and some more pipe, so I may redo that connection, especially if it leaks. Back over here at the hammer, I need to do something about the exhaust pipe. Having it just exhaust nowhere is gonna be a pain. It'll be just spraying oil all over this wall, so improvement needs to be made there. While I'm messing around with the exhaust, one thing that I actually want to be able to do is force oil into this area. But once I make my elbows and bends, I can't do it. So I'm gonna put a hole in my elbow that's gonna live there, and I'm gonna make this type of arrangement so that at the end of using the hammer, or when I'm leaving it for a long while, I can just dump some oil in there, open the valve, flood the thing with lubricant. The electricians are just about to shut off the power to the workshop because this thing needs to get connected to the whole building's electricity before we can get that fired up, which means I've got about 30 minutes of tinkering to do in here in complete darkness. Uh-oh, there we go. There's still a light on. That is crazy. I did not know that my workshop had an emergency light. Can I still do this job? Hey, power. All right, we got the motor spinning the right way. I thought this thing was going to be disgustingly loud, but actually, it's quite tame and civilized. Not what I expected. We got pressure on the pressure gauge. Moment of truth, let's see how she runs. Oh, yeah! That is insane, it's monstrous! Oh my goodness! Unbelievable! The steam hammer is so much more powerful! Yeah! It is the next morning. Jamie, you haven't seen this running, so I'm excited to show you, and we're warming up the forge so that we can put some hot steel under it. By the way, how do I find the right type of key for a cabinet like this? What is the search term?
It's just a square lock like you would have an electric box.
Oh, there we go. Checking that come up on Amazon.
Yeah. They're just a standard thing.
How about this one here?
I'm not sure about that one. I've never seen that before.
All right. Fancy new fuse board. Bang! Oh, you!
Been a few weeks since you've had one of them.
Fuse board's on. Isolator, on. I'm slowly working out how to run it. Twist this, reset, on. Motor's kicking on. Pressure's rising. He's going up quickly. Put some steel in the fire. Now I think it's a good moment to talk numbers. What did it cost to get this steam hammer up and running in this workshop? The steam hammer itself, in pieces, cost me £4,200, I think. These numbers are to the best of my recollection. £400 to regrind the shaft, £70 on bronze for the new valve, £400 in new steel for the dies,
£300 for the gasket material.
Oh yes. £600 of hose, even though it's now a lot shorter, £50 of timber for the base that was meant to be not so permanent. This compressor, with a service, Cost me £4,000 plus the VAT, £300 receiver, £30 valve, £15 pressure relief valve. Now, of course, the Prevost pipe that we were kindly supplied, we didn't have to pay for. And frankly, knowing what I know now, there is no way I would have done it in anything but this stuff, because doing this entire workshop by myself with no help in 2.5 days would just simply not be possible any other way. There's got to be at least £1,000 of pipe and fittings to get the hammer hooked up. I don't have the final bill for the electrics, but I know that's going to be £1,500 to £2,000. And so this is now an incredibly expensive machine. Here, just for our pleasure of being able to use it. This special bit of history. I'd love to be corrected, but I think this might be the only steam hammer that's now running on air in the UK. And I only know of a handful of them running on air around the world. Ethan Harty, check out his YouTube channel. He's got a £600 steam hammer that he runs on air.
Well, it's a lot cheaper than this one then.
Hey! So it's cost me a small fortune just to get it to this stage. But how about its operating cost? The Stanko runs off a 7.5 kilowatt motor. And it has a very similar falling weight. The reason it can run on a much smaller motor is it's a self-contained hammer. Through a crankshaft, the motor is compressing its own air in the back to drive the piston in the front. The steam hammer is 5 times less efficient on electricity by having to have a 40 kilowatt compressor. I pay 31p per kilowatt hour of electricity here. 6 hours of run time will cost me £14 here and £74, 40 pence right here. But on that note, I think we've got hot steel. So let's make the most of this ridiculous expense. Oh my God! It's beautiful! Oh no! Compressor's not keeping up as well. 40 kilowatts isn't powerful enough. Okay, like, it's really cool that, like, it works really, really well for like 30 seconds to a minute. It would be nice if it would work a little bit longer than that. That is beautiful. That hammer produced a very beautiful forging. I do love big wide dies. Clearly it was out of the budget to get the size of compressor that would have run it at full tilt for an entire forging heat. We've got just enough runtime with all of this to still make this a plenty usable bit of equipment, and I'm very excited to use this on our titanium Damascus projects. Thank you to today's sponsor, which was Squarespace. Get a free trial and 10% off at squarespace.com/forge. An enormous thank you is owed to you for being here, for watching, because otherwise engaging in the stupidity of spending all this money on this machine would be impossible. Thank you. Bye-bye.